Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. So today I have a special guest all the way from Switzerland, which is like 6 hours ahead of us in time, I believe. So I really appreciate her joining us. I met her in the DR here in the Dominican, and we did a sacred drum building ceremony together. That was our first introduction. So here she is, Anita Jetzer.
Hi. Hey,
Hey, Anita.
Hey.
So I just got a flash of when we met, and you were standing out on my porch for a sacred drum building ceremony, and you texted me and said, "I think I'm here."
True, and then you open and
Yeah.
what a day or 2 days of building.
Yeah, that was a process. That was
That
actually,
was a process.
I have my.
Yeah, just thought I saw it up there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'll hang it back up later.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was how we met. Oh, I gotta move it. The dog wants it. It's goat skin, okay, so yeah. The dog is like, oh, a new present.
I remember when we were in the garden, he was behind our skins.
Yes. So here we are. Now it's getting close to a year later. I mean, that was like December, I think.
Was it December?
I think it was December because Kim was here, and I think Kim came in December. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, something.
It was a while ago.
It's a while ago. A lot of things happened in between.
Yeah. That's a good example of how time passes in the Dominican Republic, right? Or probably anywhere, because you've traveled all over the place. So with this type of lifestyle, when you're kind of coming and going, you have to go with the flow. I imagine you've traveled a heck of a lot more than I have.
Yeah, every place has its own rhythm, and then it's like you lose kind of touch of time and months. And here with the seasons, you kind of know where you are in the year.
Yes. Yeah, I grew up in New England, so we had the seasons there and stuff, but I'm just a warm weather guy. I don't need the seasons. I don't care where I am. So your specialty, or at least one of them, is breath work, which is a huge topic, very important. Well, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we'll dive right into it.
Great, yeah. So my journey started with yoga about 12 years ago, and then I started teacher trainings and workshops, and then I came into holistic health coaching, and the deeper I went, the more I worked with women. And then I came into women's self-care training, and there I discovered breath work, and it just blew my mind. It was absolutely amazing. I started working with it for myself, also pretty fast, holding space for groups. And by now, like, it's mostly my main occupants. I'm holding groups, and also do more and more one-on-one therapy with breath work. My mission now is to bring it into the corporate world as well. So.
Yeah, the breath work is kind of the foundation for everything. And like one thing that I heard just a little while ago that kind of, I don't know, it took my respect for breath work to a whole nother level, because I hadn't heard it before in all my years of being aware of breath work. And I've done a little bit of it here and there. I think most people on the spiritual path have, but because it's that foundational. But I'd heard that you can get to basically the same states of self-awareness or deep meditation or access to inner traumas and things like that as if you take plant and animal medicine, as like ayahuasca and medicine and mushrooms and all these things that we use. And I haven't taken ayahuasca, but I have done mushrooms and I have done kambo several times. And the depth you go to and the power that those things have is mind blowing to me. I mean, like I had majorly deep, profound experiences with them, and knowing that breath work can take you to those same places, and so you can heal that much, that deeply. It's like I was like, what? For me, for some reason, that just really clicked, and it just took it to a whole nother level of respect for this breath work. so what's your knowledge around that?
Yeah, so for me, I'm also pretty much connected with the plant medicine. I've tried different things, but also at the same time, breath work is absolutely, you can go so deep just with your breath, and it blows my mind. I know it, but every time I go into a session, it blows my mind again and again. It's so powerful, and I guess in one way, it's because we access our unconscious self, like with other external things, but in the same time, it's releasing the natural DMT in our body, so that's how you get the similar effects or feelings, like for example, the plant medicine ceremony. And it's a bit of a mission to prepare people to what's going to happen, because mostly because they don't know about the power of the breath, you say like, yeah, we're going to breathe for an hour, for example, and then like, oh, surprise, where are we actually going with this journey? It's really, especially
Wow.
if someone is new to it, it's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can I mean, yeah, if you go to, you go sit down and start breathing, and then all of a sudden you drop into a deep meditative journey, and like, yeah, that can be kind of offsetting. And I mean, I have had some experiences myself with doing breath work that, like, I didn't, when I heard about breath work, I was like, yeah, breathing is important. It's the foundation of our life, and there's in and out, and, and all that. I got the concept of it. But when I went into a structured class and worked with somebody that actually knew what they were doing and could guide me, I was, I was shocked, because it's, as I'm sitting there, I'm breathing and I'm going along, and part of me, for some reason, there was some resistance to it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, I knew it was good, but maybe I didn't know how good it was, or perhaps maybe there's some sort of resistance inside of me, just that's my own from a past life, or whatever. But whatever it was, when I was being taught, or maybe I just don't like being told what to do.
Maybe.
So, but they're telling me how to do this, and I don't quite know what they're doing, so I'm trying it and I'm trying to keep up, and then all of a sudden I start doing it, and yeah, like, I'm laying there and I dropped in and I went places, and I was like, what just happened? It was like, I don't, did that, like, I meditate a lot. Did I just drop in because I meditated, or, or did that happen from the breath? And I'm like, it's never, very rarely has that happened in a normal meditation. It was the breath. you know
Yeah.
so how does this, how does it work, or what are some of the kinds of breath work that you find valuable? I get there's quite a few different styles, right?
Yes, it's like, yeah, it's always good to understand, like when we talk about breath work is like such a big term. So I mostly refer to kind of a conscious connected breathwork, holotropic breathing, which is this kind of controlled hyperventilation where you actually really drop into this alternate states of consciousness, which I use in therapeutic ways and in like vision building and so on. And then there's the whole other side of, for example, the yogic breathing, Tibetan, Tummo, for example, which is the style which Wim Hof uses a lot, where you really access like where you change your body temperature with the breath, for example. So I feel even like connected breath work is really like on the trend. They say it's the new yoga. It's also great to analyze like every technique has its own quality, and maybe some are feel less strong or like you feel the effects less strong. But it's like with meditation, the longer you do it and the more you practice it, every breath has its own quality and its own purpose. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And this is really good because I think breath work is such a simple, safe, effective way of doing things that I don't think it gets the credit that it deserves. And I don't think a lot of people really understand it. And I mean, I'm learning as we go too, because I haven't leaned into it that much, but I can see how I like how you made the connection between, meditation on a daily basis and doing some breath work on a daily basis. Maybe the effects with that type of thing aren't so profound at one time, but, consistently doing it, you're really going to, it's going to make a big difference. And then you've got the other type of breath work where you can dive in and go into something very deeply, at one time. So you have both aspects of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like some old yogis, they teach their students like simple like a breath, like a controlled breathing. You have to do like a ratio, for example, breath holds. You have to be able to do that for 1 year and then you can go on. So they really prepare you to do this kind of extreme breathing. So with this new style, this is kind of another access where like I think the nervous system is capable of doing it, or then you feel resistance, or people just stop. So I think there is also really finding the trust in the body and in your own system, what is ready to be released, to be seen. Same with the plant medicine, it only guides you where what is ready and what's not. And yeah, I'm always surprised. Sometimes also when you go over the resistance, then like suddenly the lid lifts off, and then like what
Yeah.
comes out from there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of, it can be really releasing for a lot of like trapped emotion that's been stuffed over the years. So you can have very emotional experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've done some where, I'm sitting there bawling and it's like, where'd that come from? It really is. It's amazing because of the simplicity of it and the level of depth that you can get to.
Yeah, it has really, from my personal experience, has really taught me to feel the feelings, but also not everything needs to be named. Sometimes something is stored in our system, our body keeps the score, and it comes and you cry and maybe you have an image, maybe not, and it goes, and maybe 5 or 10 minutes later you're in fully bliss or you're laughing, and you just see the whole rainbow of all emotions, how they come and go, and then it's beautiful to see. But then, like, yeah, if you use it in therapeutic setting, also, for example, in the training I had, we worked a lot with postnatal, prenatal topics, or like early childhood wounds, trauma, and then you can really talk to the person and go into specific topics and release them as well emotionally. So yeah, that's where a lot of emotions are released. Absolutely.
So it sounds like it could be used in a similar way to like some of the other ways nowadays is like tapping or what's the and I just EMDR,
Yeah.
where you're going in and you can target a specific topic
Mhm.
and use the breath to go in there, access that, and therefore release it.
Yes.
That's It's huge.
It's huge, and I find I've had clients who tried several techniques, or for example, hypnosis, but they were so much in the mind, it didn't really work. And that's the fascinating thing with the breath, it just takes over. If you keep the rhythm for 5-10 minutes, at some point your system is just switching over, and it's beautiful to see.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So when you're focused on the breathing rhythm for 5 or 10 minutes, you're like you can't it can circumvent those mental blocks because all your attention is going to the breathing.
Yes.
So therefore you kind of don't have the mental energy to put up a block because it's all going to the breathing. And then all of a sudden you access it. And
Yeah.
see, that's cool. Like years ago, most of my releases started being without a topic. Like I mean, occasionally of course, I'll still find something in there, but I release regularly. I can feel energy just releasing regularly. And 95% of the time, I have no idea what it's about. And it was so cool when I first found that, because it's like a lot of times, like you said, you don't need to know. It's just trapped energy. And if it goes, it goes. Like, if you need to know, like if there's a lesson tied in with that emotion, that trapped emotion that you need to get for your own personal growth and benefit, a message will come with it. You'll get that message. But a lot of people, that's, I think, an aspect that a lot of people don't understand. Like, if you need to know something, you'll see it. Yeah, you will. Because if it benefits you and if it's part of your growth, but if it's just trapped energy and revisiting or reliving a past experience that it's from, if there is no benefit to that, then you won't get the mental image. You won't get the mental message. You'll just release the energy, which is cool. I mean, I think it's kind of counterintuitive to what we used to know, or what we used to think, not know, 20, 30 years ago, where it's like, where it seemed like 20, 30 years ago, when we really started diving into the self-help, it was all about, let's go into your past and live there for
dig there
15
forever.
years.
Yeah. I support talking therapy. I think it's really valuable to analyze and to understand yourself. But then there's also a point of over talking things, and like some things needs just to be released somatically and out of the energy field, and that's done. And then you
Right.
can move on.
And it's divine wisdom that's making the determination, not us, which is beautiful, because like our perspectives are so small being here on earth compared to, I don't know, the knowledge of everything, so yeah, our perspective is a lot smaller. So having something that's a lot filled with divine wisdom, making that decision and going like, yeah, this is just a release, just release, this is all you need. Or yes, you do need to know about this so it can help you transcend it. That's cool too. And this is one of the beautiful things. Like the more I dive into spirituality. I've been doing it for 18 years, but it's like, it's just so cool to me when I come across these little pieces that to me are expressions of love and kindness from the universe. Because I think unconsciously, if somebody looks and they go, oh my God, I have 30 years or 40 years or 60 years of crap that I need to work through, and then all of a sudden they go into a deep pocket of it and it's really painful and and it hurts and it's exhausting and they have an emotional hangover for 2 days. They're like, after something like that, somebody might be like, I can't do this, and it's like, no, it's not all like that. Every once in a while, sometimes you need to, some people sometimes have to go into something like that. But there's also this thing that, I noticed it many, many years ago. And I was trying to figure out like how to label it. I was like, what kind of words can I use to describe what it is, what this thing is? And to me, the best words that I could come up with that pointed towards it was God's grace. It's we are rigged to win. If you had to spend 30 years releasing 30 years worth of shit, nobody would do it. So that's, you couldn't do it. Like, nobody is going to sit there for 30 years in pain to try to transcend 30 years of misprogramming or whatever. So this aspect that you don't have to know exactly what it is all the time. And there are techniques that we can use to release this energy in a safer way that doesn't knock you off your feet for 2 days. I think it's an example of God's grace.
Yeah, it is. And I think we also really came to believe that healing has to be painful and that we have to go through like really dark times and like
dark night of the soul, right?
Yes, absolutely. And like, I mean, also the shadow work, it's like, it's not releasing the shadow. Your shadow will always be there, like your parts which you maybe not so proud of, but it's just coming to acceptance. And like, yeah, the healing can also be really joyful, or like it's just releasing this kind of heaviness out of the work in some ways. Also, I think the word trauma is so heavy. It's like everyone thinks it's like a huge thing, and like little things are kind of collectively maybe somewhere stored, but like, as you say, it's just releasing.
Yeah, it is. And it's the trauma word. I think that's going to be going through some changes, I think, soon, because like just a little while ago, like, I mean, a matter of months, that word started hitting me, and I was like, and I started noticing the energy attached to it. And like, in one way, there is kind of trauma energy attached to a lot of things. And in some ways it can be very heavy. But like, it's a specific energy. Like, I got bit by a dog like over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And it was just a little dog, and it was just a little bite on the hand. It really wasn't that big of a deal. But for some reason, when it happened, it blew my mind in a way. I was just in a space where I was not expecting it, and which was a fault of my own. There was plenty of signs that I ignored, but I just wasn't expecting it. And then I got myself out of a situation, and I felt this wave come through, and I almost threw up. And I was like, it was just this huge, and it was actually trauma energy. And it was so weird, because I was like, and I literally carried it around for many years, even trying, I would try to release it, and I would release some of it, bits of it here and there and stuff. But like, I would hear a dog bark, and that trauma energy would shoot through me. Now, I've been through some serious traumatic events when I was younger, and none of them did that to me. Not at least that I could feel. This is some little dog, but for some reason, I was like, what the heck? It blew my mind for a long period.
And maybe there was some past life stuff attached as well to it, that
right. It could have been
every time and again, and this just triggered it. So,
but it seems like it's a specific energy, as opposed, because I think unconsciously, when we use the word trauma, we talk, our mind automatically goes to, childhood sexual abuse and, just these huge issues. That almost seem insurmountable, or do seem insurmountable if you just take a step back, and it's not always that. And I've
for
even
child, it's like finding a mom in the supermarket like for 5 minutes. That's traumatic. So it's like, it's taking it out of the context, and maybe there needs to be another word to determine like these kind of traumas.
Right. And understanding that, like, it's not based on the size of the experience. It's based on the internal processing of what's happening. So somebody could, it's possible, probably unlikely, but it's possible that somebody could have actually experienced some levels of childhood trauma, like maybe even possibly something as much as sexual abuse or something maybe similar, something very, I use that just because it's such a deep, powerful thing, you know. I mean, that's about as extreme as you're going to get, I think. So like, you know, some people can experience extreme things and their mind will automatically label it as trauma. It's like, oh yes, well, I had a childhood trauma. It's like, well, not necessarily. You had a childhood experience. You might have trauma energy that's attached to it. You might not. You know, it just depends on the person and that stuff. So I don't think, my point is not that it necessarily matters that much. It's just, I think we use the term wrong, and I think we're going to be expanding our understanding of what that term actually means. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's, you know, the breath work, obviously, one of the many cool things about it is that you can use that breath work to release whatever it is. If it's just a garden variety messed up experience, you can release that. If it's deep childhood trauma, you can release that. It's capable of doing the whole myriad of spiritual work that we need to do.
It is. And then also looking forward, if you need to get clarity or visions, or like you are standing in front of a big decision, sometimes we're so in the mind, we don't really feel what the heart wants. And then like coming back to that just with the breath is really cool.
So is that something, like with these types of things that we're talking about? I mean, of course, there's different types of breath work. When you do your work, do you, like, how does it work? Do you say, okay, we're going to go into the past this time, or we're going to go try to get you clarity on the future because that's what you just asked me for, and then you select a particular breath work that's good for that? Or do you just do the breath work and see where it goes? Or how does all that stuff work?
Mostly with like private clients, it's the setting of about when now we're talking, so I understand where they're coming from, where they stand, what's going on in their life, and then we go into the breath work. And mostly, there's maybe a topic, maybe a breakup, for example, or like some problems with their mom. But then, like I always, and also in group sessions, I say, don't set a clear intent. Like, don't go too much with a clear intention in it, because often we could limit ourselves, and the breath work really guides you sometimes then like into a situation which you were not even thinking about, or like mesmerizing it in the conscious level, but it helps you then to go further in whatever your situation are. So that's like, especially in one-on-one work, then I ask them, like, what do you see right now, what do you experience right now? And if for sure, if they're coming up with a certain situation, then we go deeper into this particular situation.
Oh, okay. So it's very organic then. You let the divine wisdom or the unconsciousness kind of guide where you're going to go, which makes me like it even more. Because that's like, that to me is so, I think, you know, the plant medicine and stuff like that does the same thing. You can't control that. You can't tell it like, hey, you know, I want to work on my breakup. It's like tough. Like, that breakup's nothing. You got this. You need to deal with this, you know? So and even this is why, like, I just started with a couple new clients recently, and it's always fun. You know, I go through stretches. Sometimes I'm working with the same clients for a long period and I don't get anybody new for a little while. And then sometimes I'll get a few new ones, and I got a few new ones all kind of in a cluster, which was fun, you know, because it's like when I first start working with somebody, they don't know what to expect fully. Of course, how would they? So, you know, so do we have a topic? Do we dive into it? And I'm just kind of like what we're doing now. I just lean back and I just ride the wave of energy and see where the conversation goes. and I usually try to tell them that to set their mind at ease. And it's like, just relax, well, it'll go where it's supposed to go. And then most
Yes.
often at the end of that first or second session, the client is like, oh, okay. Now I understand. Now I understand why, because I think our unconscious mind is so used to the structured way of life, in a linear realm and temporal realm where we're sitting here going like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? How will we process it? And then what's my homework? And it's very, and when I'm like, and there's so much emotion, like, oh my God, I'm diving into my life. I'm going to try to fix my life. There's a level of commitment that goes with that. And your mind kicks in and, okay, let's do this and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there going like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just let it go. And I think that it's a little unsettling at first until they experience it.
Yeah,
When
it's
you
just
allow
like
stuff to go, and then all of a sudden
lots of
you see,
control, and that's
that's it. It's the control. And when you let go and let something smarter than you guide it, it always goes where it needs to, when it needs to, and it's so much more profound.
It is.
So
This
the
is
breath
like,
work is the same.
it's the same, and I guess this philosophy goes for whole life, right? The more you let it go and try not to control everything, the more you be guided in the right direction you need to go, or it's your path, which is your path.
Yeah, it's true. I'm experiencing a little of that now because we're 5 of us are going to climb Pico Duarte tomorrow, and it's like a 3-day hike and stuff, and it's, I don't have any fears or worries or concerns, but as I go through my day, all of a sudden something kicks into my mind, and it's like, because we don't talk about stuff that much up here. It's like, in the DR, it's like, hey, we're going to go do something. And everybody's laid back. And it's like, oh, okay, you go do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, geez, 4 or 5 pieces of questions come into my head. And most of them I don't need to know. So you can just kind of push them aside. And then every once in a while, one comes up and goes, I think I might need to know that. Do I need to know that? But it's a different way of coming at it than, the normal way of, I have to know everything. What are we going to do? When are we leaving? When are we going back? Where are we going to stay? Like all these simple things. A lot of, we don't even know half that stuff. but that's what makes it enjoyable. We'll figure it out. Like, what's going to happen is the Earth going to disappear, and there's not, all of a sudden we won't be able to put a tent down on a piece of grass. Sure, we'll figure it out.
Absolutely. And I guess like the DR is a great place to learn just to go with the flow, right? Good lesson there.
Yeah, the energy is just so different. Anybody coming from, I think, a more developed country, like, we could use the breath work just to get our bearings here. When I came over, of course, it was all beauty and love. Even when I first came over, I would walk up and down the beach and I would just release. And some of it was kind of like, unstructured. That's the word I'm looking for. Unstructured breath work, because I'm walking up and down the beach, breathing and just releasing and releasing and releasing. And I'm like, what the hell have I been carrying around in the United States for all these years that I come over to the DR, the energy is so different. And I just walking around, releasing and literally crying. I would like walk the beach crying like daily, and like, what the hell is this? It was,
in our society, we have so much pressure. Now, like the Western, or like especially Switzerland, I just refer to culture. I know where I grew up. It's like so structured, so controlled, so focused and driven. And suddenly coming to a place where you can just release. The release happens. Yes.
right. Yeah.
And then, like, for me, it was like a mission. How can I be this way in a more structured culture. So that's the lesson like I have every time I come back, and like slowly I can say like I'm on a point. And then also seeing, okay, my work as a breathwork practitioner is needed, especially in places where there's so much pressure and there's no much space to release. If you see like a Latino, like a Dominican, he just screams or like he runs, or it's just, it goes directly out. It doesn't, like, he doesn't keep that much in. Also, like, for example, they are so close to death or like life, everything happens so close, but it's not, I guess it's just normal. It's not a huge traumatic experience in some ways,
Right.
yes, but in the same way, it's handled in such a natural way that it's not like the system is like reacting differently.
Yeah, it's like I agree with you. I think it's kind of like less um their energy body is like less dense, so things can just pass through them easier. Whereas like my energy body was so dense, it was like if I experienced something, it stuck. Like when I first popped open spiritually 18 years ago, I was so open. I felt like
You're like,
cheesecloth,
yeah, you suck it in everything.
everything just passed right through me. I could feel it passing through me. It's like, like if somebody attacked me verbally, blah, 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 personally attacking me, and their words, I could feel their energy of their words just passing through me. And they weren't sticking to anything. I was so open. It would just, and I'd be sitting there in my own little world, like as an observer watching them going, oh, they look like they're in so much
Oh,
pain
yeah,
right now. Oh, poor thing. I hope this makes them
yeah.
feel better. Like this is going on in my head, and the energy is just going right through. And then it's like completely unfazed, there's a part of me that, I didn't stay like that forever, but it was nice while it lasted. And I can get to those stages sometimes, but I think that that's a good, kind of visual of what we're dealing with and how this breath work can help, because we do, when we're exposed, and, so many people, another word that I won't go into it now, but I think the word of empath is misunderstood to some degree too. And I think we're going to be getting more knowledge on that. But like that empath, we take on so much energy from outside people. And the way I see it is like everybody on a spiritual path is an empath. I mean, probably everybody on the planet is an empath. It's just, are you open to it or are you not? And what level are you open to it? So like I always say, I have the best clients in the world because I work with the most loving, wonderful, big-hearted people. Why? Because assholes don't do self-help work. Like nobody, you have to be really closed off to be a jerk to people in life. So those aren't the people that are trying to work on themselves. So the people who are trying to work on themselves are very loving, big-hearted, wonderful people. And so therefore they take on a lot of stuff. So this is that stuff that we're exposed to, not only through our experiences through life, but I mean like traumatic or large experiences of life, but also daily life that we take on. And having a regular practice that we can go to and release some of this stuff and dive in and get the messages that we need to learn and grow from is such a asset.
Yeah, learning what is ours and what is what is not ours, which we took on somewhere along the way, right?
Yeah, just being able to get rid of that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm constantly working with people with that. They're, like whether they're my clients or somebody just messaging me or something. It's like, oh my, with all the stuff going on in the world right now, it's like, they're like, what the hell? It's like walking around in a raw nerve. Just everything is just, so yeah, having techniques to be able to block yourself from that, of course, so you're not taking it on all the time, but also to release stuff that we've picked up that's either ours or not ours, I think is a huge benefit.
Yeah, super beneficial. To take the toolbox to better.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, we need all the tools. I remember when I came into spirituality through recovery. So I was going through the 12 steps in AA, and that's when I started popping open. And I remember, like, just right at the beginning, before I started popping open, people would talk about tools, and you need tools to learn how to deal with life. And I was going like, if there's a toolbox and it has like 365 tools in it, I need 365. I don't need 364. I don't need 363. I need every freaking tool. I need it. I was so, I was suffering so much that I was just like, give me all of it, So, and then now as, 18 years later, you look at this and it's like the tools are endless. There's so many different tools. And I think part of our job is to experiment, like your story is perfect. You went into this, and then you went into that, and then you went into this. This is something that I teach people a lot too. That's what a journey looks like when it's unfolding. We don't always sit there and go, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is perfect. That's what I'll do. Thank you. And then we go, like unconsciously, people think that that's what happens. And it's not. You lean in a direction that captures your attention. And then sometimes that's it. But sometimes it's a portion of it. And sometimes that leads you to something else. That leads you to something else. And if you stay open, you find what's right for you. And breath work certainly seems like it's a big part, not only what you do, but a big part of what you do.
Yeah, at the moment it feels like my calling, but like as you say, I'm not going to say like your path is evolving and evolving, and let's say same like with your own path, like healing path or discovery, you just peel the layers. I always see it like an onion, right? So
right, and more
next, right.
That's it. It's that space of unknowing, getting comfortable not knowing and just leaning in. It's like, when I do life coaching, I'm very comfortable doing it. I've done it long enough to feel comfortable that like, okay, I'm good at what I do and I can help people. But that's not why I do it. I do it because it brings me joy, and it's fun. And people think like, oh, well, you knew, like, oh, you decided to be a life coach and now you are, and everything's perfect. And it's like, that's not what it was like. I didn't. How do you know that you're, like what you're supposed to do? Nobody know. Like most people don't know what they're supposed to do. I didn't know I was just like, I don't like school and I want to work with people. So, and so I was like, life coaching has minimal school and I'm busy. I can do it in my spare time. And, what the hell? Let's lean in that direction and see what happens. And that's what I did. And then it turned into something. I can't hear you.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I had to take out the headphones. Yeah, having the faith for it. Like I remember yoga tried to push me since like the beginning, always in the direction to really take it on as a like path of myself, like as work. But I was so fixed on, I have to go to study, I have to do that, I have to reach that. Looking back, it was my ego wanting to have certain like validation. And like, but it always threw me back on this path. And until I said like, okay, let's see what's there. Like, why do I have this urge and to work with people closer and go deeper and things are just unfolding more and more right now. So it's beautiful to see once you take the leap of faith and go into one direction.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just that leaning in and following whatever just seems right. It's more of that. It's just leaning in direction of what seems right. It's not this like, okay, I've nailed it, and which is like yoga. One interesting part about yoga, I was watching some series on the different yogic styles and aspects. And one of the things that I found really interesting was they were talking about tantric yoga, but they said it applied to all of them. They said tantric is the most misunderstood a lot of times of yogas, but all of them to some degree the foundation, the way yoga works, basically, when it was developed, so long ago, was that when somebody felt a calling and they went to a guru, and they were like, once they became a disciple, then they started, and they didn't know like what they were doing. Like they didn't know what the yogic path they were on consisted of, what they were they didn't know anything. They just went, trusted the guru, committed themselves to it, and then the guru said, do this, and they did it just because their guru said to do it, not because they understood it. And that's so opposite of how our society works now. Now it's like people want to know everything about you, about the process that you do, how it works, if it will work for them, how many people it's worked for before, how's anybody, all these details about it. And then once they have all that information, then maybe they'll decide to do it when the time is right, possibly, if the planets are aligned. And it's like,
that's the thing with, like, when I started coaching, I'm like, I mean, I can give you 10 steps if you want 10 steps, but we want to follow the 10 steps because you're an individual and everyone is really different. And I just, as I say, I have such a broad toolbox. I'm going to get the tools out when I see what is needed. So having like evoking this trust in someone else and like being supportive is like,
people have to open and take that leap of faith. Like you said, there has to be a certain level of commitment and trust, and just go, I'm just going to go where this leads me. Whether you're talking about coaching or breath work or whatever, you just kind of have to, this is why I always say, like, nobody hired me as a life coach because they were bored on a Tuesday. It's like people hire life coaches because they're sitting there going, I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not that we have to get there. It's just that the way we are in our society, that's often how it works. We go, and hopefully we're getting away from this, where we change when we suffer enough. It's like, that's not the rule of the universe. You don't have to suffer in order to change. That's not a spiritual law. It's just that we're so used to not changing that oftentimes that's how it happens. And I think we're entering, with the spiritual shift going on now, we're entering into a phase where people don't have to hit as low a bottom anymore. Like when the elevator is going down, you can get off on whatever floor you want, but unless you change, if your experiences suck in your life and they're not getting better, they're getting worse, the elevator's going down. So you can get off. You don't have to hit bottom. You can get off earlier. It's just a decision and a choice. And I'm seeing that more and more in society, which is.
And I hope new generations, and especially kids, I think they more and more see and learn. And there's a whole other level of awareness anyway being born right now, that they come with another purpose here, and they are like, I'm not going to follow this way. I'm not going to end up like my father, or like I'm not going to work until I'm dead, or like burned out. So I have to hope for that there's really this ambition of living well and healthy, and not hitting rock bottom every time, and like numbing out, having a higher awareness, and so on is there.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that, sometimes every generation has a problem with the generation after it, but I think that's, because they don't do things the same way. Yeah. So it's, but that's how change comes in. I love the younger generations, because it's like, it gives me so much hope seeing how they interact with life and work and what's acceptable to them. Like when, like that, in the United States, the political climate over there is insanity. I think it takes many years of conditioning for people to sit here and think that it's okay. the fact that you have a choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is mind-boggling to me. Like those are the two that you have like that. I don't think that the generation, I hope they stay different than us, because it took, for us to sit here and go, well, this is how it is, it's these kids are going, no, that's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I just don't think that they'd put up with it, which is phenomenal, because that's what we're doing, as societies in the United States and other developed countries. I mean, we're a majority. We can't, the fact that 500 people dictate what, hundreds of millions are doing is absurd. So we do have control if we just stood up and said, you guys are out of your mind. You guys aren't fixing anything. You're doing stuff wrong, and it's unacceptable. Once everybody gets to that stage and on that same pace, we'll see all the changes.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I think, I'm putting a lot of faith into our younger generations. So, but this is what change looks like. It looks ugly.
Yeah. Like I always hear, because my life changes a lot, and I committed to be true to myself. So that means like a lot of change. And everyone is like, oh, but like you living the line, and I'm like, well, it's like, it means like you have to put your life upside down. I don't know how many times, and it's not beautiful. And so it's like, it's hard work, and it's sometimes it's difficult. Like, that too, you move to the mountains somewhere on an island. So it's like, it takes some work to become what you're calling. Right?
Yeah, it does. It's an adjustment, and it's like our washing machine finally is almost hooked up. It was supposed to be, but then we had a problem with the hose, so it wasn't. So like I put clothes in there and started it with detergent, and then all of a sudden the water was pouring out and it didn't work. So now I have all these clothes with detergent on it. So I washed them by hand.
Yeah.
Now, like once I disconnected from the what the hell, why isn't this thing working, and just settled into the reality of the experience and washed them by hand, then all of a sudden it turned into something beautiful. Once I get over the resistance, and I was like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. Now, if you told some, in the United States, though, they probably wouldn't have washed them by hand. A lot of people, they probably would have sat there in the machine until, they had a repairman come over for $350, and then they would have been on Facebook going, do you believe that I had to pay $350 for a house call for a stupid washing machine? It's just a different experience. This is why, like, when I decided to move over, there's many, many reasons why, specific reasons, but overall, it was because I knew that I was going to be a better person if I moved over here. And a lot of it is not pleasant, becoming a better person. There's triggers that are being triggered within me, so they can come up and I can transcend them. And this is what all the work is doing. And I think that again, of course, we can talk about all kinds of cool spiritual stuff because we have this understanding. And I love these conversations. I get all jazzed up by them. But the the main topic why we're here is the breath work. Yes. And I think that the breath work is such a good thing, because you don't have to, you don't have to deal with the stigmas or the legalities of plant and animal medicine. You don't, like, there's just, you can come back to reality fairly quickly. Yes. You can't do that with plant animal medicines.
You can't do that. No,
you got to go for the ride. And when they say it's over, it's over. So, like,
always with you, right? So if you're triggered, you go into the bathroom and you just breathe a few times really deep, and it brings you back to your present moment and into your body. Pretty beneficial. Yeah.
So are there any, like, I don't know, helpful hints or any just general information you want to touch on before we wrap up?
maybe just like one breathing technique, which is very simple.
Yeah.
The longer, like if you count your inhales and exhales, if you double the length of your exhales, it's the fastest way to calm your nervous system down. You kind of can hack your brain, like a lot of surfers, for example, or like other like extreme sports know that it's like you have just to, the longer you make your exhales, the more you slow down everything. So if you feel stressed, also just in an office, just take a deep inhale and double the length of your exhale.
Okay. So if you're breathing in for 4 seconds, then breathe out for 8 seconds.
Right, exactly.
Which is funny because it's like one of the breathing techniques that I had learned years ago was a 4-7-8 breath. So just breathing in for 4, holding for 7, and releasing for 8.
Yeah.
And like right before we started, I was kind of running around and doing a few things, and I sat down and I was like, I'm all caught up in doing, so I wanted to center myself. So that's what I did. I did 3, 4, 7, 8 breaths, and then sat down, and it was just like, boom.
It's just 10 times of one of those exhales, and then it helps you a lot. Yeah.
So that's, and that, I think that's a good example of, how simple it is. So, people that are listening, go do this, just literally just do that.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great tip because it's such an easy starting point. That's what people need. People are always asking me like, what do you recommend for meditation? It's like, just
1 hour down.
Yeah. Like I want to sit there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, really? Yeah. Just start where you are. It doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing. So if you just understand, take your tip and double your exhale compared to your inhale, and you just start doing that consistently, or whenever you need to, reset your nervous system, like you said, just do that. And then all of a sudden you start doing that and you go, oh my God, this works.
It helps. Yeah.
And oh my God, it works effectively and efficiently. Wow. And then, from there, I think that is such a good thing because like I said, in our society, we kind of want to know something works before we do it. So just try that. And then, once you understand, it's like, oh, okay, this actually works. Then you can start looking into deeper places. Yes. And of course, I'll put your website.
Thank you.
On here because I know that you're all over the world, but you still work with people online. So
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So they can access you from wherever they are.
Yes.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for coming on. It was fun.
Thank you for this chat. That was really good fun. Good to see you.
Yes. Very nice to see you. It's been a while. But I follow you on social media. So I follow your experiences all over the world and
your adventures in the jungle.
Yeah, it's a fun life we live.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap up. I will play the clip and I'll just chat with you for a few minutes after, so hang on for me.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons in Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.